My name's Nicholas Forker. I make drawings and sculptures. I encounter so many people who feel kind of listless and just misplaced or apathetic, and I was trying to answer that question: why do my contemporaries feel so out of sorts? So I started to turn towards when men felt vital, the heroic roles, the classic things like the deep sea diver, the cowboy, the Arctic explorer. Well, then I drew a cosmonaut, and it kind of all clicked into place. I was like, here was this subject that made perfect sense: the explorer, the hero role, which turned out to be more of a metaphor for the trajectory of the American male in the late 20th century. I think that it's become more of like a Don Quixote figure, though, now anyway, with the space program being pushed into the private sector and NASA's funding getting cut dramatically. We're seeing that dream kind of fizzle, and we've gone from we're gonna do these things because they're hard to like a mess, really.
The idea to wear the suit was seeing the use of the astronaut as my main figure. It was seeing that idea to a logical conclusion. I was able to borrow a suit, and it was an exact replica of Buzz Aldrin's lunar landing suit from '69. And my very talented friend Clint Spaulding came along to shoot some photos, a series of photos of me in the suit. The original idea was to take all of the photos, reference material, create realistic drawings of them. But the performance aspect of embodying the astronaut, that idea of the self-portrait as the subject, now I'm thinking that the photographs might stand on their own.
The reason why space is so fascinating to me is because of its unknown quantity. It's more about space to me than the astronaut, because the astronaut is only a symbol. It's a symbol of our attempt, our kind of frail human attempt to thrust ourselves into something that we know nothing about. The feeling that I would experience in space would be peace and quiet. It would be a refreshing change of pace. That would quickly give way to loneliness and madness, probably. When I walk around in the suit, I felt that it was the embodiment of that left-hand path, the life of the artist. It's monastic. You spend most of your time alone. When you do open your mouth, you find that either you don't understand what people are saying to you, or they don't understand what you're saying to them. So many different people tried to make the spacesuit, and it was Playtex that got the contract for the spacesuit for the Apollo mission. And it was because of their knowledge of fabrics that they were able to weave together I don't know, it was 13 to 20 different types of materials to make the spacesuit that they landed on the moon with. And it's just a really fascinating idea that you could come up with essentially what is a plastic bag and jump into it and go into space. It represents the fragility of human life. This work is an example of relating that human experience in the later half of the 20th century in the United States. It's I can only speak from my experience. These are the experiences I have. It says, take the the most triumphant hero and watch what happens after nobody cares about them anymore. The dinosaur that is fine art, you know, is quickly being replaced by this multimedia explosion. Like, just all your synapses are filled with like digital information constantly. Well, how do you make a two-dimensional static image that is captivating? I thought on that long and hard, and I think one of the ways to do it is to demonstrate a skill, something that can't be done on the computer with an app on your phone. Do it with materials that are really difficult to work with, that people wouldn't think about combining, you know, the ballpoint, the mylar, drawing on plastic. Take something that has to do with the essence of your experience as a person, as a human being, everything that you've done, everything that you've seen, everything that you've thought of, everything that you've been exposed to, and condense all of that into one image. I chose the astronaut because as a symbol, it's very powerful. It speaks of a specific point in time. It speaks of a specific place in time. It talks about dreams. It talks about hopes. It talks about aspirations. It talks about realistic implication of those things. It talks about successes and failures. It talks about the human mind, space as this infinitely large representation of something that is infinitely small, contained in all of us. The artwork for me is about highlighting that last stage in the adventurer, the person who is the frontiers person. I think that role, or the landscape for that, has changed. I think that that has to do with our own brain, our own consciousness, and the way we affect our reality. So for me, this is more like putting up a signpost and saying, like, this is where it's at, and I'm looking forward to possible replacements.